Hello, everyone, and welcome to your friends on the other side of the Atlantic. This is a Disney Lorcana trading game podcast based in the UK. I am one half of your two co-hosts. My name is Kev.
And I'm Alex.
Hello, Alex. Pleasure to be here. This is going to be the first of potentially many episodes of this podcast, but we're both very excited to be talking about Lorcana for the first time. And we're going to try and bring a little bit of content to the UK and maybe the global player base as a whole. We're going to be using this first episode as a means of going over what brought us to Lorcana, why we want to play, how we had a great time at the UK Games Expo this past weekend. We got to demo Lorcana, so we're going to give you some brief first thoughts on that. We're going to go over a little bit of our thoughts on our first constructed play, and that's going to be our agenda for the podcast. So first of all, my name's Kev. I've been a trading card game player for over 25 years, currently playing Digimon, doing quite well competitively in that, but I've been simmering hype for Lorcana for some time, and I'm looking forward to really getting involved and playing this great game going forward once it drops in August. So that's why I'm here. I'm a big Disney fan, always have been. If you need to talk about some interesting Lion King facts, I'm your man. And I'm really looking forward to playing some interesting characters from various films across the Disney franchise. And that's me.
So, which character are you most looking forward to playing?
Oh, I mean, I've seen Simba, and I don't know if he's good or not. He seems quite expensive. But in anything from the Lion King, I'm going to be jumping to. Hopefully, there's going to be some good color synergy with Simba and Scar and other colors. I'm looking forward to experimenting quite a lot with those.
Oh yeah, very cool. So just to go through my own. So I'm Alex. I got into CCGs back in 2020. It became a bit of a lockdown hobby of picking them up super cheap on eBay, getting just enough to play with two players, and just kind of experiment in the space. So historically, I've been much more into more modern board games. So your Power Grids, your Ticket to Rides, your Settlers of Catan, and kind of seeing one of the things I've always loved about that is the wide variety of mechanics. So I kind of went digging into CCGs to see what they did differently, see interesting ideas that they had. And kind of also been much more interested in kind of using board games as a community building activity. They're just one of those really great ways to kind of get people around a table, get them having fun together, and kind of avoiding obviously some very contentious topics that have happened over the last few years. So I've been a fan of Lorcana, checking my web history for only about a month. It feels a lot longer. I suspect it might very well be. But as being into CCGs as I was, as soon as I heard that Disney were doing something, jumped right up on that. I figured that would be an amazing way to kind of get people into the space, not just as card games, but board games. And I'm really looking forward to seeing how Lorcana supports the community building side of their product. Obviously, they've said that they want to kind of reward players as much for playing well as building community and taking part in other activities. So I'm really looking forward to that. In fact, I was so hyped for Lorcana that at the just gone Games Expo, I ended up printing out an entire binder full of proxies so that we could get a few games in, and I could let people play games that were slightly longer than the demos we were getting, which I'm sure we'll talk about later.
Yes, absolutely. That's I very much enjoyed playing with your proxy collection on the Saturday of Expo, and I agree. I'm really looking forward to building a local community and seeing what Ravensburger and the organised play team are going to do to really drive that community growth. Without a local player base, the game is going to die in your area. So the fact that they're putting so much focus on really incentivizing players, just like, no, go to your local game store, teach the game, demo the game to as many people who want to learn it. It's going to be a really low barrier to entry game. Come and have a go. If you're a Disney fan, you're going to love it. If you're a trading card game fan, you're going to love it. They're really, really excited about building these communities, and I, for one, couldn't be happier to see that. And coupled with the fact that they've already said that they're not going to have any massive competitive level events for the first year of the game, I think immediately reduces that ceiling of potential toxicity in the community, and we're all going to be here to have a good time, maybe win some pins and a couple of promo cards. I think that's fine. I think that's absolutely great. Anything that promotes friendly play as a priority to get those communities started, and we can focus on store championships and regional championships and national championships and world championships down the road. That's a couple of years down the road. We'll get there. I have every belief that the game is good enough to get there, but the fact that they're focusing on that local level first, I think, is really, really important.
Yeah, for sure. And then it's also things like, obviously at the moment there's a lot of anxiety around even getting cards in your hand. And I think, pushing back on tournaments for a year so they can kind of get over this initial hurdle of the initial release and the, almost certain product shortfalls they're going to have means we're not going to end up in a situation where, the Mickey Brave Little Tailor card, I get why it's selling for $1,000 at the minute because there's only so many out there in the world, but you don't want to be running a tournament where, one of the meta cards is going to cost, many zeros after the number, because you're just going to price out everybody. Like, you're only going to get very hardcore, very win at any cost players in those kind of tournaments, and that's just not going to be any fun for anyone.
No, not at all. But they have said that every promo card is going to be available in the main set. So
yeah, absolutely.
Your max rarity hunters, your promo hunters, your top end collectors, they're going to have that secondary market for those promo cards. The players of the game, your local players, they can just be like, oh, I'll pay £1 for a common version of that card. Brilliant.
Yeah, perfect. I mean, that's exactly what you want.
Yeah, especially with some cards like Brave Little Tailor and the one-drop Captain Hook, who's quite good, so it seems. Looking forward to playing with him more. He was very, very good for a one-drop. But yeah, I think that decision making from Ravensburger, they're like, no, this is our short-term goal. We want to do it this way, and they were able to demo it in a way that whilst you didn't get a full game experience, you got the basics very quickly, and they're not trying to do anything. They're not trying to reinvent the wheel here. If you've played a card game before, you're going to be used to these mechanics. They're not trying to do anything too differently, but the key thing is they're going to try and utilize the license in a way where hopefully your decks are going to feel a little bit thematic when they want to be, and you can also be like, well, I'm dealing with non-canonical versions of these characters. It doesn't have to be thematic at all either. So I'm looking forward to a mix of that, coupled with some really interesting gameplay. For me, as I was playing it at Games Expo, it felt very much like the World of Warcraft trading card game, which existed before Hearthstone. I loved that game. It was the first trading card game that I travelled internationally to play for. I went all over Europe playing that game. Really, really enjoyed it, and Lorcana feels very similar. So I'm looking forward to really getting involved and being like, man, I missed Warcraft, but Lorcana is jumping in that hole where they're combining the resource system. Your inking system is very similar to your Warcraft quests, but also, again, like with Warcraft, so long as your card is an inkable card, it can go face down. That's absolutely fine. Whereas in Warcraft, obviously any card could go face down, so you always had a resource. Whereas the inking system really does, again, you have to build your deck consistently to always be able to ink every turn. If you don't ink every turn, you're going to fall behind. That's bad. You don't want to lose tempo in this game.
Yeah, I mean it's one of the things I have really liked about my first impressions with Lorcana is that it does feel very familiar to other card games, which then also means that it's gonna be, if it's gonna behave as a gateway game, if it's gonna be my first CCG, you don't want it going out there and doing weird things that no other CCG has done before. That's not actually that helpful for getting people into the hobby at a wider level. And for me, I pick up the one other CCG I really got into was Keyforge, because I really don't like the deck building aspect of the bigger games like Magic. And Magic in particular really suffers from just there's so many cards. How do I even begin to start building a deck? So having something like Keyforge where that was all taken away and just like, nope, that's your lot, that's your deck, go play with it. Um, that appealed to me. But that had the same mechanic of you didn't beat the other opponent up, you gathered something, and whoever got to the goal first was the winner. And I think that very much encourages a much more friendly atmosphere and a much nicer form of interacting with your opponents. And it's just one of those things that it is subtle, but you do pick up on it, and it makes the game a lot more appealing for a lot of people. I know, like my husband will flat out refuse to play any game where the objective is to beat the opponent, just because he just doesn't like that vibe, and I totally get that. Whereas a game where it's just, oh no, we're just racing to gather the currency, the lore, as quick as we can. Yeah, it's a much more interesting prospect. And then it also kind of opens up the opportunity to be able to, like, in a friendly setting, swapping decks. And then I piloted my deck and it did this, and you piloted yours and did that. Let's swap and see how we can pilot each other's deck. I think that'd be really fun. It'd be a great way to kind of like dip your toe into other colors. If like, I can definitely see new players kind of settling into just oh, I only like Amethyst Amber and I really struggle with the others. So having a deck that just if a Ruby Sapphire deck just beat you, you can just be like, oh, yeah, let's swap and see how I do with that then.
Yeah, and I'm in agreement with you. When I first heard about Lorcana, I was curious as to what the aim of the game was going to be. How do you win? Were they going to have potentially hero cards? Were you going to have a health pool? Are you going to be beating down that health pool with your allies? But you're right, I think that mentality leads to a very sort of, I must defeat you and utterly obliterate you. That's my aim here. I am actively trying to take you out of this game. It does create a more competitive vibe. I think the fact that we are gathering lore, we are racing to a resource, gives us that sort of more friendly sort of like a challenge, not like a, it's like a contest, not a fight to the death. It's a race. Now there are multiple decision points to be had in that race. It's not a case of you will lure every turn all the time, because you will lose if you do that. There are decision points every turn. Are you going to quest, or are you going to control the board state? Now, from a competitive point of view, controlling the board state will win you the game. So knowing when to quest is going to be really important. But I agree with you. I think they've made the right decision here, in that the object of the game is to get to 20 lore. That is your goal. To reach that goal, there are any number of things that you can do. I'll be very interested to see if there's going to be more cards that are like lore swings. I know we've had one previewed, I think it was an Aladdin, that where you can steal lore from your opponent. Those cards are going to be quite good. Anything that creates a tempo swing like that, that's going to be very interesting to see, and those are going to be the sort of characters you're going to want to remove very quickly. But again, I think, yeah, you're right, this is going to foster a more friendly sort of competition between players, and it's not going to be focused of, I must defeat you in this mental challenge. It's going to be a case of, okay, well, I am going to defeat you in this mental challenge, but I'm going to do it nicely. because we're having a race, we're having a friendly race in a competitive setting, and I think that's very important. If you want to play card games where the object of the game is to completely and utterly mentally dominate your opponent to the point where they don't want to play anymore, there are other games for you. Go and play Blue in Magic or something and have a negative play experience, or play Security Control in Digimon. Everyone will love you, I promise. But yeah,
I think.
Go ahead.
Sorry, just the I mean, the other thing as well is like, as a first impression, the art they have for all the cards is just stunning.
Oh, that's gorgeous.
One of my favorite bits at Expo was being able to actually hold them and look right at, really get up close with the artwork, and you just the incredible attention to detail that goes into these cards. So I've had a fair bit of experience with Pokemon, and it's a fine game. But going from Pokemon art to the Lorcana art, it's just a huge step up. And while even if you're losing, even if you haven't got any lore and your opponent's already on 15, at least your cards have looked gorgeous and you've had some beautiful artwork to enjoy, and that really does make such a big difference. I know I've had it before where people have said to me that just like they're not interested in playing Magic, they just wish they could get the art on posters, and you are absolutely going to get that with Lorcana. I'll be shocked if Ravensburger end up sitting on the idea of doing things like posters or playmats with all the art on it. I think that they are going to be very popular.
Oh yeah, I'm always a fan of pretty playmats. Give me some, let me win at some point down the line. Let me win a national championship. Give me one of your nice playmats with all of the art on it, please. I love the art. I love the fact that they've gone. Yeah, we have access to stills from films. We're not going to be cheap. We're going to pay artists. Let's get some art in. Thank you very much. I also want to give a quick shout out. The back art of the cards is probably the prettiest art I've seen for the back of a card game, which is a shame. I love the effort, but no one's ever going to see it. They're always going to be sleeved, unless one of their early sleeves designs are going to be the back of the card, which it should be. It is very pretty. I do appreciate it. But also I want to give a shout out to the layout of the cards. The layout of the card works so well for this game. I really like how they've placed, not just the names and the stats and how they've done the text. I like that they've done not keywords as such. They have done keywords, but also pretty much every card has like a bit of flavor text for the ability. For no reason. There's no reason to do that apart from because it's Disney and it's nice and it's a reference to something.
I mean, that is one of the things I'm genuinely interested in, is that Ravensburger have teased this idea of there being a narrative running through at least the first few sets of kind of like explaining what a Lumineer is, what the where is it we've been summoned to? I can't remember, but like the setting and all that. Because so far, I think most of the flavor text I've seen has just been straight quotes from the movies or the song lyrics.
Mm-hmm.
There are a couple out there which kind of reference the game itself. I think some of the Mickey ones do. But I'm really excited to see what they do with that. How they're going to convey that story, because I know that's something Magic have to put an enormous amount of work in to kind of convey a story in under 50 words, if that. I am really excited to see what Disney and Ravensburger can do in that space.
Oh yeah, I would love to see like in the start of the rule book, have a bit of fiction, just being like, this is what's going on. This is why are all of these characters in this place? Why are there different versions of these characters? What's going on? What is happening in this world where all of these characters have ended up? What are we doing? Are they going to carry, would they be able to carry that fiction forward? Give us, make the world feel alive. And I think if anyone wants to make their worlds feel alive, it's Disney.
Mm-hmm.
So give me more of that, please. I want that in my face. I used to love that about Legend of the Five Rings. They would always have a story with their latest chapter pack. You know, what's going on now, what's happened, what's building up, what's the big event leading to. Oh, you won a big tournament, you get to choose the outcome of this storyline. Off you go. They may not be that intense for Lorcana, but give me some fiction, splash that in, make that world feel alive. I'm all for that. Absolutely bring it on.
So, time to talk about UKGE and talk about the Expo demo.
I think so. I think we've gone over our initial thoughts of the game. We're both very hype. I love it. Yes, let's talk about UKGE, which was this past weekend. We are currently filming on the 7th of June, so it has just been and gone. We're both recovered from our weekend. Yeah, what were your thoughts? What were you there for? What were you mainly there at Games Expo to do?
So I was only down for the Saturday because I knew Ravensburger were there and I knew they brought Lorcana with them, and that was the only thing I was interested in. As soon as they got there, beelined to the Lorcana queue, which, you know, timed well. You were there at the same time. It was really nice keeping each other company in the line. But the Lorcana demo was like my entire focus. I mean, UKGE, if you've not been, it's several thousand. It might be 10, 20,000. I really am no good with numbers, but basically it's 3 very massive halls at the National Exhibition Centre in Birmingham, and it really does run the gauntlet of everything to do with board games or board gaming. So right down to, you know, Warhammer and Citadel Miniatures are there. You've got all the big board game publishers like Asmodee. You've got places like Lorcana and Ravensburger, right down to little one-man bands. We actually ended up picking a copy of a game called Cuckoo, which was literally made by one guy, and that's a really fun, silly little card game. So yeah, UKGE is. I kind of, because I was only there for a day, I didn't get to really dive into what it's there for, which is playing lots and lots and lots of demos and trying out all these new games before they come to market or when they're up on Kickstarter. But yeah, so I went straight to Lorcana and that was great. How about yourself? What brought you to UKGE?
Well, I went up there only really for Digimon. There were 2 big competitive card game tournaments for Digimon. Which is the card game that I currently play. It's been out for a couple of years, and it is the first successful Digimon card game in the West. It's doing big in Japan, and it has actually managed to do big globally. We had 2 big events. We had a regional championship on the Friday and an Ultimate Cup format tournament on the Sunday. So our Saturday was free, and going up, I had no plans for the Saturday. My plan was to play Friday, chill out Saturday, meet up with friends, get some food, have a look around the hall, you know, but nothing set in stone because I didn't know that Ravensburger was going to be there. I had no idea that Lorcana was being demoed. In fact, because I was trying to keep my hype quite low, I didn't want to get too excited about Lorcana until it hit. That didn't work out for me. But yeah, I went up there primarily for Digimon. We played on Friday. We didn't have a good day on Friday. We went 1 win, 1 draw, 1 loss, drop. We were done. We were like, okay, that's fine. Won't play anymore. Thank you. I'm done for the day. But I was able to hop on the Organised Play Events official stream and join in the commentary team, along with a good friend, Agito Swiftly, who is a great commentator. We both had a lot of fun just commentating the last few rounds of Digimon and seeing at the end of that event. That was interesting. I hadn't done it before. I was like, well, I've got some insight. Let's see if I can put it to use. Let's jump on commentary. And we had a blast. We got to have some good fun together, enjoying some very good games. Saturday, again, I had no idea. I got told early in the day, oh, hey, have you seen that, you know, Lorcana demoing? And I was like, no, not at all. My friend who I travelled up with has already pre-ordered. He'd pre-ordered his stuff. He's getting into the game. He's excited about it. He was like, we've got to go to the demo. Off we went, and we joined the queue. We joined the queue on Saturday, and again, good timing because we met you in the queue. We got to talking, and another young lady from Barcelona, who we ended up spending the queue time with. It was a short queue, right, about half an hour. They were making their way through. They were very busy. I would probably hazard a guess to say that that stand was the busiest of the entire convention. I think they saw a lot of people through those doors in terms of demoing. They were very, very popular over the course of the weekend. Games Expo said that they had over 30,000 unique attendees over the 3-day event.
Golly.
I would imagine most of them went to go demo Lorcana. It was very, very popular. So I'll come back to Saturday in a minute. We can talk about that because we'll both have thoughts. And then on the Sunday, we had the Digimon Ultimate Cup, which I played in. I went X wins, 1 loss, and came third. Took home some very good prizes. Another strong finish for me. That's my 3rd top 4 in the last few months. So I'm really happy with that performance. But now I'm kind of like, I'm not going to be buying any Digimon for a while, so let's buy some Lorcana instead. What could go wrong? So going back to the Saturday, we join the queue, we meet up with yourself, we start shooting ideas and feelings and thoughts on the game back and forth. We had a very good time, and then half an hour later we were sat down at a table, the 4 of us, to have our very first in-person experience of Lorcana. Now, I am a terrible human being. I didn't catch the name of the amazing lady who demoed us the game, and I'm even worse because she demoed the game for me the second time round when I went later in the day. But I will say she did a fantastic job.
She did.
She did a great, great job. What a lovely way to learn the game. She was very thematic. She was very bubbly, very light. Really loved that. I really enjoyed that experience that she gave us. We didn't get to play long due to the sheer number of people in the queue and how busy they were. We played to 5 lore, so you can imagine we got about 4 or 5 turns into the game before someone won.
I don't think my game even got that far. I think it was turn 3.
There you go. Yeah, it was quick, but it was everything that we needed to just get a taste of the game. From just being able to pick up the cards, feel them in our hands, and see that artwork up close. It is gorgeous. It's a beautiful looking game, and yeah, we played our first very, very quick demo game of Lorcana.
One of the things they had there while we were in the queue, just to circle back to that, was they had 6 foil cards in the stand. Unfortunately, understandably, they were in a glass cabinet, so you couldn't have a proper look at them. But the foiling looks fantastic, and it's one of those things that a photo will never do it justice. But the method they've used, this cold press foiling, means that it's on very precise bits of the art, which means that, like, I think one of them was Let It Go. It was definitely someone casting a spell of some description.
It would have been
and they had
Elsa, right?
Yes. And it had having the foil kind of going around the lines of the spell being cast. This is already fantastic art, but the foil just makes it pop in such a spectacular way.
Absolutely, it does look very, very pretty. I'm going to enjoy just looking at my cards. I always like to look at my cards and be like, yeah, this looks cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and again, just seeing the back art of the card, which we haven't really seen. All of our proxies, of course, are just going to be printed out on bits of paper. But the back art of the card, again, just gorgeous. And you're just like, yeah, these do look quite nice when they're sat down, face down in front of me, and I turn them sideways to pay for things. Yeah, that's nice.
I think as well, like the demo wasn't great in terms of getting a feel for the game itself. I am really glad I took my proxies and we could play a full game. But just it showed how easy the game is to teach. The fact that you could, kind of get people sat down, and playing in under 5 minutes. That's fantastic. Like, that is exactly what you want to get someone into a game. I end up having to have a selection of board games that do specifically that, because they are the best way to get people into the hobby, to just be able to say to them, okay, here's a deck of cards, ready, set, draw. So you turn them, you stand them up, you move your wet cards into your dry, and you draw a card, and then you just play a card from there, and that's it. You already know like 50% of the rules, 90% of the ones that aren't written on the card. Is just a fantastic thing to see. And yeah, the fact that they were I think they had a queue the whole time we were there, and that queue was moving at a fair pace. I think a lot of people realised how quick and easy the game is, which is something I'm really looking forward to.
You're absolutely right. I think has been designed to be a gateway game, and also it's inherently going to be a trans-generational game. You're going to have your young children, Disney fans, pick up this game. Maybe they've got gamer parents who are like, well, this is going to be a great way to teach you some math, English, literacy, tactical thinking skills. We all like Disney in this house. Let's go. And the same gameplay mechanics are going to appeal to established card game players because they're good mechanics. They're not bad at all. It's a great gateway game. They must have. I say they were. That queue was moving pretty steadily, but it was always full. I think it was a constant half-hour queue the entire convention, because we had to wait another half hour later in the day. But yeah, first thoughts on just that demo game. Really well demoed to us. Again, our tutor did a great job of really making it feel like we were playing a game of Lorcana, right? It was very good. She was good at explaining the basic mechanics of the game. No, this has, it's not called summoning sickness, is it? It's
drying.
It's drying. Yes, it's in its drying state. It's not quite ready yet. And of course, we're used to using all sorts of different terminology from various card games, but we do not kill Disney characters. We banish them. So that was. I think it's a good idea to really use that terminology. I think if we can, as a community, just use the terminology they want us to use, especially when we're teaching the game to new people and young children, I think that's going to be very important.
Absolutely.
To keep that going. I know that we're gonna make mistakes. We're gonna slip into destroy or pop your guy or tap this. Those games have been around for a long time. They're ingrained into our gaming brains, but the terminology that Lorcana is using is more thematic and just nicer terminology, really.
Yeah, I think as well stuff like that is coming from the board game space. It's probably a lot easier for me to kind of switch in the language I'm using, because in each board game, like, you have to be very particular to use the right terms. So it's good to be able to do that with Lorcana. I think moving on to kind of like after we'd played our demo game, we ended up we went over to the open play area. We had lunch and then we went over to the open play area and started playing with the proxies, so we could actually get a proper all the way to 20 game.
Yes.
And one of the things I really appreciate with Lorcana is how once two players know what they're doing, certainly with the current card pool and especially with the demo deck, games are fast, like sub 10 minutes fast. And it's also very easy once you kind of have a feel for it, and especially at the moment where there's no action or immediate way to kind of board wipe your opponent. It's very easy to know when you've lost and just concede so that you can whip back around and play again. And for me, I think that's going to be something that's really going to feed into deck building, because one of the problems I always had when I was trying to deck build is, especially with something like Magic, where, a game takes 20, 30 minutes, and by the end of it, unless you were keeping meticulous notes, which I just do not have the time for, I would have no idea where my deck didn't work. Like, it would be so hard to know. That was just bad variance. You just got mana locked. You just didn't pull the right card. It was in there, but it just wasn't in your right spot on the deck. Whereas with Lorcana, you bang it after 5 minutes, and you're like, oh, no, when I pulled that card, it wasn't working for me. Can I cycle it for something else? And it's much more obvious kind of what went wrong and what you might be able to do to fix it. And you could do a little tweak, like, okay, give me a second, I'm just going to swap these 2 cards out. Right, let's go again.
Yes, and I think they've done a very good job of balancing cards and establishing that mana curve very well. They've clearly got experience doing it. There's obviously games that have come out before where they can take a look at that power curve, cost curve baseline and be like, right, well, that's what we want to do, right? That's, if it costs 3, it should be 3/3. That's your basic curve. If it's going to be 3/3/4, right, what's the downside? Or if it's going to be 3/1/4, all right, how are you going to make that card? What effect are you going to give that card to make it a bit more playable? Probably challenger. That seems like quite a good keyword. They've done a really good job of, even with the cards we've just seen. I mean, the demo decks themselves, very well balanced. They've clearly taken their time to be like, no, it has to have a good ink ratio and a decent curve, and then off you go. That is a great way to learn the game. Those demo decks do exactly what they need to do on the tin. What I did is I was able to have our little 5-10 minute demo. Then I joined you for at Open Gaming, and you were just like, well, here's a folder, build a deck. So me and my friend Jai were like, okay. And I just went, well, there's a 7 cost Simba and there's a 6 cost Scar. I want to play both of those cards. I guess I just work backwards through those colour pools and play the best in each slot that you've got. Turns out that worked quite well for me because I didn't drop a game.
I think as well you've touched on there, just that is like one of my favourite things around the deck building for Lorcana is this, because you only have 2 colours, that narrows your options down nicely. But also, it's Disney. Pick your favourite characters. Pick your 2 favourite characters and build your deck around them.
Yep.
And that's such an intuitive and natural starting point for someone who's never built a deck before. I cannot do that with Magic. I cannot pick up a deck. I cannot look at the card pool of Magic and say, I like that card and I like that card. Because I just have no context.
Yeah.
And, anyone, any age, a kid, an adult, anyone everyone's been exposed to Disney. So you just tell them, right, who are your 2 favourite characters? Oh, I really like Mulan and Moana. Great. Those are the 2 cards. Those are your 2 colours. Build your decks around that.
Yep. And that's exactly what
so
I did.
Good.
It was so easy. The irony being is that I neither played Scar or Simba in any of my testing games because they were too expensive.
I don't think I've played a single 8-drop yet.
No, I'm like, the game is over. The game is over before I drop an 8-drop, and if I drop an 8-drop, that card has to win me the game. But I was playing. Essentially, I ended up building Steel Sapphire, right? I didn't even know that was a good combination because I had no idea. I was just like, well, there's Simba's a steel card and Scar's a sapphire card. I'll play those and work back. But I got to play cards like the 1-drop Captain Hook and the 2-drop Prince Eric and the 4-drop Captain Hook and Fire the Cannons. And I must have recurred Fire the Cannons several times in our testing games that we had. That was quite a nice little easy combo to pick up. Like, I play Fire the Cannons, I kill a dude. I play Captain Hook, I pick up Fire the Cannons, I kill a dude. Brilliant. Banish. No. See, that's how easy it is. Yeah, and now there will be ways to build around that combo with the full card pool. You may not want to play 2 health characters. That's absolutely valid. if Fire the Cannons becomes a staple card. But in the small revealed card pool that we had, my opponent, Jai, did not have any way to really not play any 2 health characters, so I just kept banishing them. And then I quested, and I kept winning the game. And so just having never seen the cards before, I was able to pick 2 characters I liked, work backwards through the cost curve. Bob's your uncle, nice and easy. Got to build a pretty cool deck, have some fun with that. And already I can tell that they've done a really good job in designing the game. It's and I'm excited to see what other colours thematics are going to be. I want to see what the other colours that we haven't seen many of do. Is there going to be a colour that's going to be more interactive with your opponent on their turn? Who knows? If there is, that's probably going to be quite a good colour. Or they might steer away from interacting on your opponent's turn completely. The other thing that I wanted to talk about was specifically songs. I really like the idea of songs. Yes, I would like to have the option to either pay my ink cost for the card or exhaust a character to have them sing that song. Brilliant.
Yeah, it's really
costs are always
interesting.
good.
Yeah, the exerting is something I'm really interested in, because obviously at the minute with the limited card pool, we're kind of being pushed down certain strategies of just, always quest, always challenge. You need to be exerting all your people all the time. But I am really interested to see if there'll be cards that come out that make it so that you may not necessarily want to exert a character, because that also makes them vulnerable. Yes. And that's a really interesting decision space to be in, of like, do I want this character to be vulnerable right now, or can I wait to get cards down that will then protect it?
Well, I found out in my games with the deck that I built that I was playing a lot of the challenger characters, like One Drop Captain Hook, like Prince Eric. And I was like, well, they quest for 1 lore, but Challenger is really good. It lets me trade up. So if my opponent plays 3 or 4 cost characters, my 1 and 2 cost characters can run into them with Challenger, and will do a favourable trade, or an above curve trade. And I think knowing when to keep your characters ready or unexerted, knowing that you intend to control the board in the following turns is really important. So there is already space for that strategy of like, well, is it wise to quest, or should I wait? If I wait, what is my opponent going to do? Am I going to have to deal with something straight away at an instant level? So yeah, there's already that sort of decision and thought making process in the very, very basic game.
Yeah, it is very exciting to see where they'll go with this. Not just in this first set, but they've already said they've got designs down out to at least set 7, I think. So, it's good to know that there's going to be at least some reasonably long-term support. And I think as well, one of the things I'm really interested in is just seeing what the different characters look like in the different colours. It feels like a lot of the characters we've had have been very much obvious choices. Yes, Captain Hook is very clearly a steal. But there's also been some really interesting ones. So the Amber Hades, King of Olympus, that's a really interesting card. That's a completely different context for that character to be in. I'm really looking forward to seeing what they do with that. Yep. Like, what does a Ruby Robin Hood look like?
Right, exactly. I like to think that they chose amber for that version of Hades because that's the colour of nectar of the gods.
Yeah.
Maybe. So just going over a couple of cards that I picked up, because I also played about with the demo decks that you'd printed off after we'd played with some constructed, because I felt that my deck was a little bit more powerful than the deck that my friend had made. So we got to play with the full demo decks and go to 20 with them. I one jump ahead. Jumped out at me straight away. Mana ramp is always good. That card's going to see a lot of play, I think. Captain Hook, very good. I really like the idea of the Aurora, the 5-cost Aurora, who protects all of your other characters from effects.
Yes, I can definitely see that one being very useful when we start getting games that can get to 5 drops.
Yeah, that's a very, like, Ward is an interesting ability. I love the idea of Shift. Definitely want to see how they're going to continue to incorporate that. My one bugbear, and this might have been said before elsewhere in the community, but they have the other demo deck has Friends on the other side in it. It says you can suspend a 3-cost character to sing it for free, but Dr. Facilier only costs 2. What's up with that? He can't sing his own song.
Presumably there'll be a Dr. Facilier that costs 3.
One would assume. We just haven't seen him yet.
Yeah, we haven't seen a lot of cards.
There's so much we haven't seen. The set is quite large as well. Like, set 1 is quite a big set.
Yeah, I'm curious if that's going to continue as well. If they're going to continue to be multiple 100 cards in a set, or if that's going to pare down a little bit. Just because, like, it's always that tricky balance of, a lot of new cards obviously means presumably they'll sell more, but also you don't necessarily want to risk going into the problem that Magic has of just being there's too many cards and no one can really make any good decisions anymore, and that ends up becoming quite off-putting.
Yeah, I think they've clearly got a lot of ideas. They've already mapped out, as you say, the first several sets. I don't think they need to be too experimental. I think that what they've got, I think their first 3 sets are going to be quite basic. The power level of cards is going to be pretty chill, but they're going to be... The community is very hyped for the game. I think we just want to get stuck in now, right? August can't come fast enough. The hype is definitely there.
It cannot.
I want to see more. I want to see... Yeah, give us some spoilers. I know we've got a while to wait, and it's been a bit quiet on the spoiler front yet at the moment, but let's see some more cards and see that great artwork. Which character are you looking forward to that you haven't seen yet, that you want to see?
I really want a Ratigan.
Oh, yeah.
I don't mind what colour he's in. I don't care what they do with his glimmer. I just really want a Ratigan.
The world's greatest criminal mind.
Indeed. If you can have Vincent Price in your card game, you need to have Vincent Price in your card game. That's just right. A given.
Yeah,
I haven't seen a Genie either.
No, we haven't seen Genie yet. I would also be curious as if to see, we're going to see, like, maybe we've already seen actually that some supporting side characters, maybe animal companions, are going to be able to buff up their main characters. I quite like the idea of that. Give an Abu who buffs up Aladdin in some way. We've already got Hey who has supporter. I think giving the animal companions the supporter keyword is very, very cool. Again, it makes you feel like you're playing with these characters. So I'm looking to see more of that.
Yeah, I think that's also one of the really interesting spaces they have to play in, is how thematic they make their cards. Like, some of them, like, especially with the differing glimmers, so that it could be interesting to see what a steel Hey does. But also to have, like, the canonical character. So clearly Hey Amber seems to be the canonical Hey from the movie. Yeah. Whereas Steel Tinkerbell is very much not canonical. I don't remember her ever getting armed up with a sword and shield.
No, she looks more like she's one of the summer or winter fae from the Dresden Files. I love it. yeah, so I mean, they've got so much to play around with, and I know people are like, "Oh yeah, but it's Disney. They have access to like the Marvel characters and the Star Wars characters." I don't think we're going to see any of that. We don't need to. If you want to play a Marvel card game, there's a really good one called Marvel Champions. Go play that. If you want to play Star Wars, Star Wars has had card games in the past. I think this
The
is
deck
really
builder apparently is very good.
yeah, yeah. But I think for Lorcana, they're like, no, 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 no. Like this is going to be all of your favorite established Disney characters. So I'm a little bit biased. I'm looking forward to a Nick Wilde card. Give me some Zootopia representation. Looking forward to seeing what they do there. Like, what would a Nick Wilde look like if he wasn't from, that world? What would he look like if he maybe was in a more high fantasy setting? I suppose he'd probably look like Robin Hood, really, wouldn't he? Yeah, probably. Well, give me that too. Why not? Yeah, so I'm really excited to see how far this Steam train's going to roll. I think the first few months are going to be really important. Again, building those local communities, and I love that what little organised play they have is like, no, you're not going to get points for just winning your local game nights. You're going to earn points for teaching the game to someone else, for bringing a friend. Very much all sort of that. And I would love to see if they do expand, years down the line to bigger events, to national level events, to regional level events. I want to see other things happening at those tournaments, Give me like a costume contest. Get the community involved, It's a celebration of Disney characters as much as it is the card game. Let's do let's do some different things. Let's really, have fun at these long events. Because personally for me, the best thing about playing trading card games competitively is traveling to all these different shops and different venues and playing in these bigger events and meeting the people and the community in person and having a good time. Are we going to go for a curry before our event? Yeah, we are. Let's go. Let's book a curry for 20 people. Off we go. It's all about the community, And I've done
Yeah,
that.
Absolutely.
I've done that in a lot of card games, in my time. It's community first, to the point where, I mean, if they're not going to run big events yet, doesn't stop the community from doing it, right?
No, absolutely not. I know there's already a couple of groups out there that are planning to host Lorcana tournaments. I've seen one that's happening over in Miami. I'm hoping there'll be something in the UK. Honestly, if there isn't, I'm in Manchester. Might try and see if I can spin something up over here.
Right, exactly. Let's do it. Another thing that they could maybe want to do when they want to think about it is, obviously I know you picked up card gaming in lockdown. Over lockdown, if you were playing card games, online events became the main way to play. So even now, you'll see games that have in-person events again, but they're still doing online ones. I've got an online one for Digimon this Sunday, and those are always well attended. So if they wanted to also have some online play where you're playing over webcam, it's not the same, but games are games, and I'm always up for playing games. I like to get my reps in, and Lorcana is going to be really, as you say, it's going to be a quick game. It could be best 2 or 3 if they want it to be. The games can be that quick.
Easy.
But I also think that they may want to stick to best of 1. Up to them. But I always prefer best 2 or 3. But it depends on if the game is designed for it. But,
that's one. Probably leave it for next episode. But one things we haven't touched on at all is the multiplayer side of things. The fact that the game out the gate is going to support more than 1v1. That's very exciting. That's a very exciting space.
Big fan. I do appreciate multiple formats. I'm a terrible multiplayer format player. I can't do it. I'm really bad. I was awful at Game of Thrones melee format. Good grief. Awful. But I love the fact that there are multiple gaming formats and ways to play straight out of the box. Again, another great entry point. oh, you want to play a card game, but you don't like one-on-one, you feel it's too competitive, get a group around. We've got 4 players, let's go. You know, and I think that's really, really cool. But I am aware that we're running a bit short on time. We have waffled on a bit. We should probably bring this episode to a close. I think we've kind of talked about everything we wanted to, haven't we?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think so. I'm going to be posting this around. I'm going to try and upload it to YouTube. So if you hear it, if you've enjoyed it, give the video a like, give us a subscribe. What could possibly go wrong? But thanks very much for your time if you stayed with us to the end. I've been Kev. My co-host has been...
I've been Alex. It's been lovely chatting with you. I hope you've enjoyed listening to us. If you want to chat any more in detail or send us a message, comments, we'll read all the comments on YouTube. And I'm on Discord in the UK, the tournament, and the Lorcana HQs. I'm on there as Neon Godzilla. Do feel free to ping me if you want to chat at all.
Yeah, and same with me.
And where can they find you, Kev?
They can find me on Discord and Twitter at Jowgenetsu. That's JOWGENETSU. It's been great to have this chat with you, Alex. Thanks very much for your time. Until next time, we've been your friends on the other side of the Atlantic.
Okay.